welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I also want to say that Charlton and Big C Sports were the #1 show in the universe according to Big C and his good old boys voting down south. You know, we got the Starship Enterprise and I think Star Wars and your friend Chewbacca. In fact, Mike and Mike, they were playing Star Wars theme this morning, ironically, Big C. But I also want to say thank you to you good old boys in Latin America, bienvenidos. We thank you so much for following Charlton and Big C. And we are actually on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 media network in the United States of America. So thank you for following Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you from downtown Sacramento, outside of the brand new Golden One Center. It is a beautiful basketball facility. Thank you, Mayor Kevin Johnson. Also, I want to say hello, London. You guys, I'm sorry about sending over Washington and also Cincinnati because they had to play to a tie for you guys. But usually, most football games end in somebody winning. Also, Big C. And of course, Canada, you know, I love you so much, Canada, but I did get those nasty letters about not knowing your national anthem, but that's Big C's fault, okay? So, Big C can stand for Canada, also Canadian, so I apologize for that. We still love you. And, of course, the great United States, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going down south for you good old boys?
Charlton, it's just beautiful down south. I mean, a great weekend of football down here when you think about the NFC South and the victories that came out of that, and also the NFC South.
Yeah.
And, you know, college football is strong down in the South, and, you know, we got the Big C World Series going on in Chicago and Cleveland. Just a marvelous time of the year, Charlton. We had the teams eliminated from the college football playoffs. When we look at Big 12, you had 2 losses in West Virginia and Baylor.
Yeah.
But, you know, the top teams stay strong. You know, when you look at playoff contention, you got Alabama, you got Washington, you got Clemson. And, you know, that 4th team is up in there, most likely Michigan, Charlton. But, you know, it's just a wonderful time for a sports fan these days to be sitting up watching and listening to professional college sports.
Well, it sure is, Big C. And I want to say today is a beautiful October the 31st. It is called Halloween, Big C. So you good old boys might be afraid in some of your costumes. In fact, when I was down south, fishing with you good old boys one time, I thought it was Halloween, Big C, but it was not. So some of you good old boys don't have to change outfits at all, Big C. But I know, and speaking of Halloween, I'm sure that everyone in Chicago is so happy that they have a picture of the closer by the name of Chapman. This guy, when he's throwing slow, he's throwing 99, Big C. They're saying, well, he's starting to drop off a little bit because he's throwing 99. He was throwing the heat around 102 and 103. It must be so special to have him in the closer position when you're the Cubs, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, you think about what he did last night coming in, pitching 2 innings. You know, normally he comes in and he's only facing 3.
Yeah.
And people were questioning Joe Madden last night. Well, how can you bring this guy in, you know, in the 8th inning?
Yeah.
And he came in, shut him down in the 8th, shut him down in the 9th. But, you know, you don't get to be a manager in the World Series by guessing, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
You have to understand the game a little bit. And I think Joe Madden understands the game better than the broadcasters and the writers. They're out there being the naysayers against him. You know,
Yeah.
They have a job because of him. You know, that's what you got to look at. You know, they have nothing to write about if he's not there producing something for him. And he's done a marvelous job this year with the Cubs, even though they're down 3-2 in the World Series and going back to Cleveland for Game 6.
Yeah.
It's just been a marvelous World Series. We talked about this series going 7. Cleveland has the best 2 pitchers in the World Series. But, you know, we're expecting an exciting game for Game 6. So.
Yeah, and definitely, Big C. And speaking of exciting, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, we know that yours is the one with the mud on it. But you know, since we've been talking about Cadillac Escalade and the mud job, you know how you good old boys like to drive through the mud in your brand new cars, Big C. We've seen American Airlines slide in the mud, Big C. I mean, how does airplanes get in the mud? I think there was a show, a movie by Denzel Washington, and he played this pilot that flew an airplane upside down. I don't know.
All flight.
Oh, was that a real? Okay, maybe it was it a real thing? I don't know if it was real or not, Big C. But I'm wondering how else would you get mud on an airplane unless you're listening to Charlton and Big C, Big C.
It's amazing how many things are followed. You know, it's just like tonight for Halloween. You know, I'm going to give out some catfish and deer catfish. So, you know, we a lot of it. We have to worry about that. You have to go to the dentist and all that stuff.
sure all the kids that come by your house, Big Z, after they get through the security, they're going to be given catfish. Are these catfish going to be alive, or are they at least going to be deep fried, Big Z?
We're going to make some nuggets, some candy nuggets out of them. We're going to have a fun time. And McDonald's will have a thing on us tonight,
yeah, that's so funny, Big Z. Speaking of McDonald's and Halloween, and I hope everybody's safe. Actually, Halloween is actually the day that most children are hurt by cars in the United States because they can't see, or people who don't pay enough attention to kids crossing the street. So please be careful out there. Thinking of the great words of Floyd Money Mayweather, he wants to be the richest superhero in the world. And I think you talked about Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man, for Halloween 2016. When you think of Floyd Money Mayweather, the only guy that I've seen with as many cars as him, Big C, is you. Why do you guys have so many cars, Big C?
You never know if you're going to have a dead daddy flat tire. You never know. You have to get where you're going. So if you have options, this is like college football you see when they run option offense.
Yeah.
You have options. And that's what we look at. We're looking at options so we understand what type of animal we're going out trying to pursue that day,
Okay.
Wild turkeys, you got to have some mobility for some wild turkeys, so you need that sports car.
Well, I definitely understand that, Big C, but the one difference between you and Mayweather is he actually takes his car to the car wash, Big C. So he's and you know what? I'm sure we're gonna see Mayweather driving around in the mud too, Big C. Any day now. Just keep an eye out for that, Big C. But also, we talked about so many things with the World Series. I'm so happy that in the Big C World Series that we have the mighty Chicago Cubs and the powerful Cleveland Indians both represent Big C. Great for the city of Chicago. Great for the city of Cleveland. Doesn't matter who wins. I'm just loving the fact that we can see great baseball. And when you have a dominant pitcher like Chapman to close out, normally they only bring him in for one inning, Big C. Maybe sometimes they'll bring him down in the second part of the eighth, but rarely does he come in to throw 3 innings. He came in in the 7th inning last night, and he closed out so strong. Who in history reminds you of his performance, Big C?
Well, Charlton, there's nobody other than Nolan Ryan that I can think of, the great Nolan Ryan, who's Major League all-time strikeout team.
Yeah.
Ryan threw heaters like that, but he was a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And he would get you complete games. But, when you think about somebody coming out of the bullpen that is so dominating and intimidating, Aroldis Chapman has just been one-of-a-kind pitcher since he came into the major leagues. Originally started out in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Prior to going to the Yankees, being traded to the Cubs. But, you just think about Cleveland as an all. They're having a renaissance in sports.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, the Browns have not won a game this year, and they only win 1 or 2 by the end of the NFL season. But you got the Cleveland Cavaliers, the reigning NBA champions.
Yeah.
You got the the Cleveland one game shy. I've had a little liquid tonight.
I think you may have choked on one of those catfish balls, Big C. Take the bones out before you give it to the kids, all right? But Big C, I love the fact that we are watching the great World Series. You did say it would go 7. A lot of people think it might go 6. It depends on the pitching. It seems like the team that scores first wins these games, Big C. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in the Big C World Series tomorrow night in the great city of Cleveland, Ohio. As we get on into the world of college football, there are a lot of good games in college football, Big C, and then we'll hit up the NFL. But over the weekend, we had a lot of teams right now in college football actually kind of laying claim to where they're going to finish up when it comes to the national championship race, Big C. And obviously, one of the bigger games that I really enjoyed seeing was the University of Washington Huskies getting back to the days of when they had the great Donnie James and they went into Utah, which is a very difficult place to win. And because of a pick six turning back for a touchdown, actually it was a punt return for a touchdown, they were able to edge out Utah. What a great game up in the mountains in Utah, Big C. Your thoughts on Washington being ranked number 4 in the country, Big C?
Well, you got to get some favoritism from the officials every now and then, Charlton. And on Pettis' punt return, it was easily 3 blocks that could have been called blocks in the back.
Yeah.
But, the officials let them play, and Washington was able to recover and win the game. And I think at times there's favoritism as far as bracketing of teams.
Yeah.
And to have a West Coast team finally participate in the college football playoffs would be tremendous for college football because it's been dominated by the Northeast and the South. When you think about the first 2 years of it, Charlton.
Yeah.
But there should be a nationwide participation. You have Washington, having a spectacular year going back decades since they played this well. And Peterson, this coach has some magic in him. You think about the teams he had in Boise State, Salter, when he would go around and knock off the big boys. And the people say, well, you only do that once a year. You can't do it week after week. You only play one game a week, Salter, when you think about college football.
That's
you play one game. So if you kick the big boys' butt that week, then you kick their butt. And you got a year to learn about it. But you think about what he's done at the University of Washington. They revamped their stadium a couple of years ago. Brought back some flair, and great scenery there in Puget Sound for watching games, Salter. But the Pac-10 has been down for Pac-12.
Pac-12. It'll be Pac-14 pretty soon, Big C.
Well, let's say the Pac.
The Pac.
Let's do that. And so when you think about that conference overall as being down there, I can't remember the team that opened up the season.
No, leave USC alone, Big C. They're back. They're coming back, Big C.
That's who it was. They changed the feeder game. I got you. They changed the feeder game. Right?
I understand that, Big C. That's funny.
When you look at UW and what they've done with Browning and quarterback, and all the speed that Peterson has infused into that program has made a tremendous difference. The difference between he and Sarkisian is that he's a player coach. Sarkisian was like me.
That's so funny, Big C. And speaking of playing in teams that you love, Big C, when we look at the number one team in the country, and they were idle last week, which is really bad for LSU because you give Nick Saban another week to prepare for you. We have Alabama ranked number one. They're actually 8-0 in the country, and they are playing actually, it doesn't even matter where they play, but they're playing on the road at LSU, and that game is going to be on Saturday at CBS, an 8 o'clock Eastern Time kickoff, Big C. So playing under the lights down there in Swampland, Big C. Your thoughts, any hope at all that LSU has of knocking off the Alabama Crimson Tide after Saban has 2 weeks? I don't think so, Big C.
Well, playing down in West Valley, where LSU plays, I mean, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a humid night down there, but Alabama just has so many things going for them, The key to Alabama is the depth that they have. They're too deep on the defensive line and rotations in the game. Their secondary has not really been challenged this year. And you look at this young quarterback, what he has done. The running game is strong. Alabama has all the tools to go undefeated. And even if they lost the game, Charlton, I still feel that they would be in the college playoff.
Go ahead, Big C.
They haven't lost a road game in 2 years when you look at what they've done.
They've been very, very dominant, Big C. And speaking of being dominant, this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. And when you think of the lottery, what can a buck do for you, Big C? I'm telling you, I have breaking news for everyone right now. The California Lottery won by Charlton and Big C. The Powerball on Wednesday, the winning numbers are, and the Powerball number is yes. So I hope that you guys can write those down. One by Charlton and Big C. I'm sorry if you couldn't understand me. I was actually coughing on some catfish bone that Big C spit out to me. But play that California Lottery, and what a buck can do for you. It's great for education. Big C, I'm also hearing that the lottery is good because it goes with moonshine. When you go and get the lotto ticket, buy moonshine, it helps you become more clairvoyant. Is that what?
Well, it helps you see the numbers a little clearer, so you're not guessing, you're being more accurate. It clears the mind.
That's funny. I heard about that stuff working in the past. It does work wonders. That's why the Kennedy clan became so strong, because the grandfather was a moonshiner back in the South, Big Z. But back into the world of college football, you talk about a team that I thought would have an easier win over Michigan State, their rival. But when you have a rival game, both teams are going to really turn up the intensity. Michigan, number 2, they actually have the highest paid coach in the country, in Coach Harbaugh. They are 8-0, and they play Maryland on ESPN at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, Big C. But they got a 32-23 win over Michigan State, a lot closer than a lot of people thought, Big C. Your thoughts on Michigan?
Well, it goes back to what former Michigan running back said about a decade ago, Mike Hart. He says, it's like playing basketball with your little brother. You let him score a couple points, and all of a sudden you really got to spank him after that. And Michigan State got up early, Charlton. They looked like they would be competitive in that ball game, but you also got to remember last year, Michigan had them on the ropes other than a fumble punt at the end of the game. Michigan would have won that game. So Jim Harbaugh understands what Mike D'Antoni has done, Charlton. And the talent that he has with Michigan, is so diverse that's the key. He infused speed. We keep talking about that on the college level. Speed.
Yeah.
Speed kills in sports. And if you have a fast team, you're going to play a fast team. You know, it's just like ESPN.
Yeah.
Where do you see them broadcasting on Saturday? You see them broadcasting the major college networks.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, they do.
When was the last time ESPN put on an Ivy League game in prime time?
Oh, man. I don't think they ever have.
Okay, so when you want to talk about talent and speed,
yeah.
You look at these conferences that they broadcast, the SEC, the ACC,
yeah.
the Big 12, the Pac-12.
Yeah.
You know, they're broadcasting speed, Charlton. That's what they're doing in talent. If they wanted to be fair about what they do, broadcast an Ivy League game in prime time and see how much interest you get with the lack of speed and athleticism. And I'm not knocking these intelligent teams that are out there.
Yeah.
But there's a different level of competition, and that's what they're buying into, is that they want to have those guys that they're not going to pay do the show every Saturday evening.
Well, Big C, speaking of the show, when you think about that, you just made me think about something. And I've been watching sports for a long, long time. I know you've been around the game a lot longer than I have, over 40 years and all. And when I look at the athletes on the field, you just brought up a point. A lot of this is African-American made talent that has made people like Jim Harbaugh a $9 or $10 million a year coach. And Saban has about $7 million coaching. And that's because of the African-American athlete. But I do want people to pay attention also, because most of these guys will never get a contract to play professional sports. However, they may have a chance to play, broadcast a couple of games. But when I look at the broadcast crews, they're still about 90% Caucasian. And it just caught my eye for a time. I was watching ESPN. I think the only African-American they have on the stage is Desmond Howard, Big C. And I'm not saying that, for whatever reason, if you look at, they're about 80% of the athletes are African-American, but when it comes to time to get paid for broadcasting the game, it drops down to about maybe 10 to 15%, Big C. I just think that's very shocking. How is it so hard for African-American men to get jobs in broadcast after they finish making multi-million dollars for these universities, Big C? Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, it's always perplexing, that the limitation of African-Americans in the broadcast booth. I mean, African-Americans are very articulate. This dumb jock theory that people want to say that they can't speak. No, they're not rappers. They're athletes. So it's a big difference. But these guys who can understand the game and articulate the game back, when you think about the number of African-American linebackers, African-American receivers, and even running backs in the game who have to have a depth of understanding, defensive backs, who make play calls and adjustments. Yeah. They understand the inside of the game. And for broadcast networks not to give them an opportunity. You spoke about having just a couple. I mean, Ron Gilmore, former player. I look at him, but the play-by-play guys, you got Mark Jones, you got Jeff Johnson, you got these guys, but, to give opportunity to African-American, because when you think about the promise and famous and familiarity of the fan with these players, they know them very well. Yeah. Walk through the Hall of Fame. See how many African-Americans in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But just their contribution on the field, as well as in press conferences, you hear these players talk, they know how to handle themselves in press conferences, and so they know how to handle themselves in delivering an explanation and understanding of the game. Yeah.
Well, Big C, I think about some of the things that we do. Like, we created Charlton and Big C Sports, and we are worldwide on the iHeart Radio Network, voted the #1 sports show in the universe, Big C. And I don't care what people say. Colin Coward, and I think it was Mike and Mike, they were playing the Star Wars theme, this morning for Halloween. We've been doing the Star Wars theme with Chewbacca, Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, Darth Vader. And all these things we've been doing over the past couple of months, Big C, it's just ironic that they bring that up. However, there's no black men on their program either unless they have a guest that comes on. And I watched something with the NFL Network. Now, most of their broadcasters seem to be African-American. It's more equal with what you see on the field, Big C. But the other guys, and I'm telling all my African-American brethren in broadcast, and the Caucasian guys too, make it fair for everybody to get a job once they take off the uniform, Big C. And you only hear about that on Charlton and Big C Sports because everybody else is afraid, or they're comfortable in their boots, or they don't care about equality, Big C. But I want people to keep that in mind when you're watching television. Look at the color of the athletes on the field, and then look at the guys on the broadcast booth that are bringing it to you. It's like 90% Caucasian, and I know that some people say, well, it doesn't really matter. If it doesn't matter, make it 90% African American, and then see if people still say it doesn't matter, Big C. And speaking of it mattering, Big C, I want to say that this next segment is sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed Life Insurance up to $100,000 with no medical questions. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network. We are also endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society, and we are looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help put people back to work. That's with the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network. Big C, before we get back into college football, one more tidbit of advice for these producers that don't hire black men, even though they love watching black men play sports. I don't see them broadcasting Ivy League football, where it's about 90% Caucasian. They're not packing their stadiums with broadcasters covering those sports. They go where the most talented black athletes are. And you like the SEC, the Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10, etc. But when it comes to getting a job, they're just like, we already got one. What else do you want? What advice would you give the producers, Big C?
Well, Charles, it's like what you spoke about. You got to create some equality in life. And you're creating in the broadcast booth, you have control of that. Where you can take these individuals, you can culture them like everybody else. You're going to tell me everybody that's in the broadcast booth walked off the field, walked into the broadcast booth, Charles. And it hasn't been that simple for everybody.
Right.
A lot of these guys have been tutored and mentored into these positions.
Yeah.
But, if you give a fair chance, it's almost like the Rooney Rule in the NFL.
Yeah.
We have to interview black guys, but we're not going to hire them. You're not going to hire them as a head coach. You look at the number of African-American head coaches around the NFL, and you look at the disparity between them and the players. When you talk about relationships between players and coaches, identification, even on the college level.
Yeah.
To bring in a young man from certain regional areas of the country and take him to a university where, he's basically an outcast in that city.
Yeah.
I remember years ago with Mike McCarthy, at the University of Colorado.
Yeah.
When he was bringing in all those athletes from Southern California.
Yeah.
And bringing them out to Boulder.
Yeah.
They were misplaced in a society that didn't really accept them.
Yeah.
An entire University of Colorado.
Yeah.
You had 481 black students. In a university that had over 40,000.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 1% of the student body.
Yeah.
Less than 1% was African American.
And
so to be able to get along in that society makes it real tough. And if you don't have African American coaches on your staff to help them get through the social adjustment, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's the same in the NFL. You have to have social adjustment to get to the broadcast booth.
Yeah.
And so unless you bring these guys into a program to allow them to learn the skills of delivery in a broadcast, you're never going to increase it. Just like you don't have black offensive and defensive coordinators in the NFL.
Yeah.
Those are the guys who get the jobs, are the coordinators. You got them as position coaches. And you're going to tell them that these guys can't coordinate a game, especially when you've been a safety making adjustment calls in the secondary.
Yeah.
And you've been a linebacker making adjustment calls for the entire defense, that you don't have the ability to do that. And even though there's been a limited number of African-American quarterbacks in the NFL, Charlton, how many of those quarterbacks have ever gotten a coaching job in the NFL?
Well, Big C, that is so powerful, and I love bringing it up because you only hear it here on Charlton and Big C Sports. You can hear more on our program that you hear on other programs combined with Fox, ESPN, and also the CBS and ABC Sports. I'll bring up this last point before we touch again on college football. If you listen in anywhere throughout the world, you can compare Charlton and Big C Sports and put us up against ESPN, Fox, any of them. I don't care who they are. We have just as much knowledge and sometimes a lot more knowledge than they have. And we do this without a teleprompter and without a producer in our ear. And I just challenge all the networks, take the teleprompters down for one day, take the producer out of your ear for one day, and let them do an extemporaneous broadcast so people can really see what's really going on. We have a lot of passion for what we do, and we love competing. So my word to all you broadcasters out there, if you want to do it, create your own program. Don't wait for ESPN, don't wait for Fox. Unless you're white, you're probably not going to get a good consideration for that job. And even if you do get it as a black, they probably want someone who won a Heisman Trophy like they have Desmond Howard on ESPN. And I'm not saying anything bad about Desmond. I'm just saying there's a lot of black talent behind the microphones, and they just get ostracized from the broadcast business by the mainstream networks. And that,
from this perspective, when you have black talent on television, you replace it with black talent.
Yeah.
That's what you do. That blacks don't expand numbers-wise in the booth.
Maybe they shrunk on ESPN. Yeah.
But you replace them. Who do you replace from last year? Tom Jackson.
Yeah.
Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Keyshawn Johnson.
The numbers didn't. Keyshawn. So You did a 3-to-2 ratio.
Chris Carter?
You got rid of 3 and you brought in 2.
Mm-hmm.
4, actually 4.
Yeah.
So, now you got rid of 4 and you bring in 2.
Ray Lewis is gone?
Expand the opportunity.
Yeah.
Ray Lewis, Chris Carter, Keyshawn Johnson, and Tom Jackson.
Yeah.
You did not expand the opportunity for African Americans. You're going to tell me that there was not 4, that you could only bring in 2. You bring in Randy Moss, who was semi-entertaining and knowledgeable, and look at Rod Woodson, and ultimate respect for the man and the player.
Yeah.
But at times he seems to be out of place.
Yeah.
In what he's doing as far as delivering.
Yeah.
If you haven't told him what to do in here, it's like he's almost lost.
And I see the same. I see the
You
same.
have to look at these things.
Yeah, I see a lot of that with a lot of the field reporters too. And because we're very competitive, I mean, I want to compete. I'm not about sitting back and being quiet. We can always get better, but I challenge anybody to have the same information that we have without producers and without teleprompters. And I because sports is competitive, but I want to open more doors for Black Americans, and I'm going to say it because a lot of people don't say it. They want to keep us out of the business, but go create your own thing, Big C. And also thinking of
Look at it like this.
Yeah.
What is reality television? Reality television is sports. What is reality radio? It's sports.
Yeah.
Because it's real. It's in a real-time pitch. It's about what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
People have gotten so stuck on reality television and these scripted shows, they think that that's reality as life. It's not. It's about
well, don't say anything bad about Kim Kardashian, Big C. Leave Kim Kardashian. She's a bad girl, okay? That girl makes $400 million a year or something like that, Big C. So she's off the hook, okay?
Well, Charles, but it's true that you don't have to have talent to make money, okay? That's true.
Okay.
Show me some body parts in your occupation.
I understand. That's so funny,
but
Big
when
C.
you look at athleticism and you look at broadcasting,
Yeah.
these are the most simultaneous reality events.
Yeah.
Okay? And you have to have somebody. I mean, when I watch broadcasters on television and listen to them, they're telling me what I see.
Yeah.
Okay, explain to me why it got to that point.
Yeah.
I can see the run, I can see the tackle, I can see the pass, I can see the block. But tell me what set it up. Give me a little more X's and O's. Bring the illustrators out a little bit more. Show me that you understand the game.
Yeah.
Other than the producer just bleeding it into your ear.
Oh, yeah.
The game is expensive, and you're supposed to be so talented because you were this great player, but when you're lacking knowledge and explaining the game to me, as a layman fan is lacking, I get disinterested in a hurry, and we wonder why the NFL ratings are down.
Yeah.
Because these puppets that you have on are not really educating or enticing the fans. That's what the NFL needs to look at more than anything else. They need some showmen like they used to have with ABC Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
When you had Dorothy Don, Manning, Howard Cosell, and Frank Gifford.
Yeah.
They had showmen in the booth, John.
Yeah, they sure did, Big C. And I'll say one more thing just on this thing. Everyone said watch the documentary 13th. I'm downtown outside of the Golden One Center in Sacramento, California, and I'm just going to bring this up too because when I look at this beautiful state-of-the-art arena, it was an African-American man in the name of Kevin Johnson that fought and kept this team here by galvanizing the people with money and the investors that wanted to keep the arena here for the city of Sacramento. When I look at the Kings organization, when they take the court, I would say most of their athletes are about 80% African-American, Big C. When you look in their organization, the guys behind the scene that don't have a jersey on, when it comes to hiring in their organization, I say 90% of them are Caucasian. There's hardly any Black Americans in their organization outside of one, and they put Doug Christie on TV to have him talk with Kozimor and a couple other guys. But these guys that have actually played the game, they make them take on a secondary role as if they don't really have knowledge of the game. I just think it's odd, Big C. You and I have both played sports. We know the game. We're both great men. We're intelligent. We know the broadcast business. We're very competitive. And again, this message is for people who want to start your own business. Go do it. Don't wait for somebody to give you anything because it really doesn't happen that way. And I want to say this segment is also sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to offering final expense. Tweet out to Charlton Big C Sports. We're also trying to offer 1,000 jobs to 1,000 insurance brokers to help take care of American families. Tweet out to Charlton Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network. Big C, a few more games on college football. I know you had a lot of thought about what would happen in the game Clemson and Florida State. You actually said it would be a closer game than the point spread. The point spread was almost double digits. It ended up being 37-34 by Clemson. Your thoughts on Clemson and their chase for a national championship, Big C? Go right ahead, sir.
Well, you think about this. Dan Francois, the young rookie quarterback for Florida State, he's been taking a drubbing this year. He reminds me of Cam. He gets
Yeah.
hit without the flag, Charlton, and you wonder how long before he breaks down. But Dalvin Cook, the running back, he's almost unreal. You know,
Yeah.
he goes under the radar when they talk about the great running backs in the country.
Yeah.
But he's the nation's leading rusher, you know, from the line of scrimmage, Charlton. So he does marvelous things. Clemson's got Dahlman back in the backfield, and that was the difference maker.
Oh, he's amazing.
What Sean Watson can do as quarterback.
Yeah.
But when they got Dahlman back carrying the ball on the ground, that was the equalizer. And this game was just a 3-point game where Vegas, I think, had it about 11 or 12
Yeah.
point game.
Double digits.
But, you know, Florida State, in a rivalry game, Charlton, it makes a difference. You know, teams come out and play. We talked about Michigan State. That in a rivalry game, you want to play. But Clemson has just been head and shoulders above everybody in the ACC in the last 2 years.
Yeah, they have. And you know, Sean Watson doesn't have to always have the greatest game, Big C. But do you think he's still in the front running for the Heisman Trophy, even though everyone loves the kid, Jackson, down at Louisville, even though Jackson probably won't play in the Final Four with so many teams from dominant conferences, Big C? Are you still impressed with the Jackson ability to win games? I mean, all he does is win, Big C, outside of Alabama, but there's some people saying he's taking a hit on his Heisman Trophy chase. Your thoughts on that?
Well, no, Charlton. I think he sealed the bid last week. You think about it. He threw a touchdown pass against Virginia with about 4 seconds to go on the clock with Louisville trailing.
Yeah.
You know, that's what key performers do in the pressure situations. Goes undaunted. I mean, his numbers have just increased week after week. You know, he hasn't slowed down at all. I mean, they've had a couple close games, but it's not because of him. He's not playing defense on the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing you got to look at. It's like the quarterbacks in San Francisco when you look at Gabbard and Kaepernick.
Yeah.
They don't play defense, but the defense gives up all those points every weekend, and they come back saying, hey, it's the quarterback's fault because our defense once again gave up 45 points. You're not going to win in the NFL. In the NFL or even college football doing that, Charles.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Big C. And also, just to finish out on the college football, I think no matter who you are out there, it's going to come down to the top 4 teams. But another, you know, just keeping an eye on some other great games out there. We talked about Washington beating Utah in a close game. Louisville 7-1, and they beat Virginia 32-25. It was Ohio State. You know, haven't been looking that good the last 2 weeks. They beat Northwestern 24-20, Big C. So a really close game for Urban Meyer's team. I think the Buckeyes really have to get on track after that loss they had to Penn State. They really got to find their groove again, Big C. Another great game, Wisconsin, overtime win over Nebraska. Just a crazy environment. Both teams are very good, but Wisconsin gets that win. They're 6-2, and Nebraska falls. That was their first loss on the season for Nebraska, but I think those teams are evenly matched because they were actually playing up at Wisconsin. Then number 9 is Florida, 6-1. Nebraska dropped to 7-1, and that's a lot of the college football in the top 10. Basically, as we get ready for some of the NFL talk, I just want to get your thoughts on, do you like who would be your top 4 right now going into the Final Four for college football? We talked about Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, Washington, there's Louisville, Ohio State. You know, can't say A&M because they lost to teams ahead of them as well as Wisconsin. But do you like the fact that these teams right now are set up for the Final Four with Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, and Washington, Big C? Does Louisville have a chance to get in there, Big C? Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Yeah, you know, you went through the top 4 teams right off the bat, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you looked at Alabama, you looked at Michigan, you looked at Washington, you looked at Clemson.
Yeah.
Those are the top 4 teams in the country, Charlton, and their records are very favorable for them to win out on the regular season.
Yeah.
And even if one of them has a loss, it's going to be very difficult to keep them out of the playoffs, Charlton, and the way the thing is structured.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is college football on any given Saturday. Anybody. We saw 3 number 1 teams lose this past weekend. 3 top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Go by the wayside. So it comes down to whether you get cocky and complacent as a coach and as a team. You got to keep guys motivated on a weekly basis. And we talked about the Louisville comeback.
Yeah.
You know, the last second of the game, they throw a touchdown pass. We talked about Clemson's fertility.
Yeah.
Coming back, beating Florida State. We looked at Michigan, trailing in the opening of the game to Michigan State. Coming back, dominating the game. This is what great coaches and great teams do, Charlton. They find a way to win. They don't sit back there and say, well, we're down by 2 touchdowns. Let's just pack it in.
Yeah, that's true, Big Z. And as we get into the NFL, we'll have a quick rundown of the NFL, Big C, because we know Monday Night Football has the Minnesota Vikings and they're in a good game tonight versus the Chicago Bears. Should be a good game for the Vikings because the Bears don't offer a lot of resistance. This is not like finding a bear at Yosemite National Park, Big C. This is the Chicago Bears in the Windy City, Big C. Your thoughts on Minnesota and the Chicago Bears tonight, Big C?
Well, I think Chicago's really become the cupcakes of the Midway. Not so much, but the cupcakes.
Yeah.
And you know, they put Bill Cutler back in the starting lineup tonight, Charlton.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing I've always noticed about Jay Cutler throughout his career is that he's been lackluster mentally. He doesn't have a sense of motivation or drive. You know, just you don't see that fire in him. He'll make a good pass here and there, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, you know, then he'll come back and throw a silly interception. When he got a wide open receiver, he panics in the pocket. So,
yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of promise throughout his career, and people waited a decade for him to develop into the surefire starter in the NFL. I think, you know, when you talk about this overall arm, that's been overrated in the NFL for a long, long time. And I'll take you back to 1970-71 when Terry Bradshaw was drafted number 1 overall.
Yeah.
Okay, the second quarterback that was drafted number 2 by the Bears. His name was Bobby Douglas. Left-handed quarterback, reminded a lot of people of Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
Had a cannon for an arm, but he had no accuracy. And you go back and you look at Jeff George several years ago, about 2 decades ago, when he was drafted overall number 1 by the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Everybody talk about can't miss with this rocket arm. But after half dozen teams in the NFL, now he's coaching high school football and never got his team to crescendo.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Jay Cutler. Everybody's talking about an arm. Think about how many black quarterbacks have had great arms.
Yeah.
That never got a chance in the NFL. But they can throw the ball 75, 80 yards in the NFL. They can't read the defense.
Yeah.
So when you read the NFL and interceptions every year, Eli Manning, what,
yeah.
you can't read the defense?
No, he can't read it.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I mean, he's lucked up on a couple of, wild card Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But, you know, in your career in the NFL, you've led the NFL in second half interceptions.
Yeah.
You got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Harvard grad. You know, before he was benched, he had thrown 10 fourth-quarter interceptions.
Yeah.
So when you talk about not being able to read a defense as a quarterback, the ineptitude of these guys, you got to watch what you say as a broadcaster, saying these guys just don't develop.
Yeah.
Anybody can develop given an opportunity, but when your team is always drafting in the top 5 in the NFL, Jacksonville with Blake Bortles, number 1 overall drafted, they can win 5 games a year. They also drafted the kid in San Francisco, Blaine Gabbert, drafting Bortles.
Yeah.
So, you know, tell me what these organizations see in these guys other than stature and color. And you get a black college quarterback. You know, you get a black college quarterback who's always in the top 10, top 15 every year. Can't even get a tryout, though.
Yeah, Big C. It is the same thing that you're talking about in the broadcast booth, because I've been in the broadcast game for so long, but I want everyone to start paying attention to, look at the color of the athletes on the field, and look how the color changes when you get into the press box, and why is there less equality in a sport that broadcasts mostly African Americans? That's bizarre to me that you have such a disparity when it comes to the hiring. And I've been a little bit naive to that too, Big C. I know you see that a lot more than I have, but I'm starting to see that.
Look at last year's NBA championship, okay?
Yeah.
Look at the starting lineup in last year's NBA championship. I think 10 black players started every game.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you have one black brother, not even a sideline reporter with African American.
Yeah.
So, you know, but you got everybody telling you what African Americans think, Charlton. And that's been society over here. This is how they should think. This is what they think. This is how they should act. But you don't take from the African American perspective.
Yeah.
I think you rob the game and the fans by not having the African American perspective, Charlton, because these guys have played the game.
Yeah.
And there's no knock against the females in the industry, Charlton.
Right.
They do a wonderful job. They're very versed. They read a lot.
Yeah.
But they can't give you the insight because they've never played the game.
Yeah, and
one thing I've never seen, I've never seen a male sideline reporter at a female basketball game or in a female volleyball game, Charlton.
That's interesting. And just think about this when people say, yeah, but why are they talking about race? Can't they just leave that alone? Can't we all just get along? I wonder if the Masters on CBS Sports, with a tradition like no other, if they would have all African-American broadcasters on all 18 holes this year for the Masters coming up in 2017, because if they did that, to have one white guy, that would be what the college football is doing with ESPN and Fox, it seems. just imagine that. The Masters has mostly all the golfers are Caucasian, maybe 99% of them. If they put up all African-American broadcasters, maybe mix in one Asian American or one Native American or Hispanic American, and have one white person out there doing an event that's 99% white. That's what they're doing to the NFL, and that's what they're doing to college football. And I think for the Final Four last year, all 4 teams in the Final Four, they started all African Americans, Big C. But the broadcast, they had one African American broadcaster in the Final Four, and I'm talking about parity. That can make sense. But to have this whitewashing of the broadcast booth when they're showcasing all the athletes that are making tens of millions of dollars for the predominantly white institutions, I just think it's something worth talking about. And speaking of that, Big C, I want to say this final segment is sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org and also CYNN Entertainment when it comes to promotions. Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. Back into the world of the NFL in a brief breakdown, Big C, the beautiful play defensive team, the Denver Broncos, 27-19 over the Chargers. That game was at Mile High, up at Denver Stadium. Your thoughts on that game, Big C? A lot of defensive plays being made in that play. Both teams had a lot of first downs. It was San Diego 21 first downs, and Denver only had 15. But again, their defense stood up, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's the thing about playing in Mile High in the thin air, Charlton, and the excess of smoke that's in there.
What kind of smoke, Big C? I thought it was not a wood burning state in Colorado, Big C.
But Denver sleepers woke up for this game. They've had a couple of tough games this year, but at home, they came back to life. San Diego had been on a brief winning streak. I thought the game would be closer than what it was.
Yeah.
But Simeon did a marvelous job, Anderson being out, and Denver pulled it out. They needed to stay pace with the Oakland Raiders, Charlton.
Yeah, and that was, you look at that game, too, rushing, Gordon had 23 carries for 111 yards, so that really turned the tables for San Diego, at least trying to control the ground game. They did have more first downs than Denver. And when it comes to passing, you have Rivers, who's 20 of 47. He threw 3 interceptions, though, Big C. He had 267 yards, and then Simeon was 20 of 38, 1 interception, 276 yards. So the defense is the reason that the Broncos won that game again, Big C. Another game that we look at that I thought was a fantastic football game, and you actually called this. It was the Falcons at home prevailing over the Packers 33-32. And what a great game. I mean, that was like an NFC championship game. Your thoughts on the Packers going down to Atlanta and coming up short, Big C?
Well, Charlton, the thing about people who don't question Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And he's the cog that makes Green Bay go. But Aaron Rodgers, since the Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers has not been the same.
Yeah.
He's a little impatient nowadays. The quarterback, he's real happy. He wants to get out of the pocket. He's doing too much at quarterback. You got to let the offense develop. You got to let the routes get run. They don't have a great running game, but that goes to management.
Right.
When you don't have a running game, you got to draft running backs. They're out there all over the place.
Yeah.
But you don't draft them. So, that falls on management when you don't have that. But Aaron Rodgers is protected as far as him not playing well.
Yeah, media-wise.
Other reasons.
Yeah.
It's almost like an Andrew Luck scenario. It's other people's fault that he's not playing well. Even at the end of the game, when his pass went awry, and missed the wide open receiver, it was the receiver's fault. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers' fault. But he panicked running outside the pocket trying to throw the ball on the run. But I want to tell you about the greatest play in that game, and the announcers really didn't recognize it.
Yeah.
There was a swing pass to a running back for Atlanta out of the backfield. And he got the ball in the 7. He turned it up. You don't stop running backs getting into the end zone when they catch the ball at the 7 and they got a full head of steam. He took it back from Green Bay, came up at the 1-yard line. Form tackling. I see so many of these 60 tacklers now in football with nobody else to hit anybody. I mean, I don't know if it's the DB or the cheerleaders out there playing all the time. But he came up with a form tackle that the NFL, college football, and high school football need to take around to their players and show them this is how football is meant to be played.
Yeah.
He lowered the shoulder. He stopped the running back at the 1-yard line. That's where he hit him, and that's where he stopped. He didn't make it into the end zone. Took Atlanta 3 more plays, but to me, that was the most outstanding play of the game, Charlton. These are the backs coming up, putting his shoulder on the running back, stopping him at the 1-yard line, which I haven't seen in years. These are the back willing to hit anybody since the great Jack Tatum of the Oakland Raiders.
He was amazing, Big C, amazing. And speaking of some of the stats, Rodgers was 28 of 38 for 246 yards, and Ryan, who could really light it up, he was 28 of 35 for 288. So a great win I thought, by the Falcons. Another game, Big C, the Patriots 42, actually the Patriots 41, and the Bills 25. The great Tom Brady always shining for the New England Patriots. And when you look at that game, first down-wise, Buffalo had 25 first downs compared to New England 23, but when it comes to passing yards, that's where I think Brady makes more accurate passes, 22 of 33, 315 yards. Buffalo's Taylor was 19 of 38, 183 yards, Big C. Your thoughts on, New England, should we put them in the AFC Championship game yet, Big C?
Well, Charlton, when you look at New England's offense, they make big plays, okay, Charlton? Yeah. And you look at teams that are playing against them. You know, they end up with a lot of third and short, second and medium. New England very rarely puts themselves in that position. They make big plays and they force their defense to be on the field quite often. But it's also that shock factor to the opposing offense. Yeah. Is that, you know, we drove the ball for 7 minutes down the field, got a field goal. New England came back in 3 plays and got a touchdown. Yeah. So it's a mental game what New England does to its opponents, Charlton, by scoring so frequently. Yeah. And you know, their defense has played well the entire year. You think about it. Tom Brady's on a record pace. He's thrown 12 touchdowns, Charlton, since he's been back. He has a 74% completion ratio. He hasn't thrown an interception. And so when you look at that, and you combine that with the great defense they're playing, and when you look at the receiving core in New England, who is the receiving core? People know Gronkowski, they know a little bit about Bennett, a little bit about Edelman, but who is the standout receiver in New England? That's why you can't get a grasp on this offense. And then you got blunt force Thomas running over people. So, you know, this is a well-rounded offense. Yeah. And there always have been a great team on a Belichick, Big C. Now, a game that I was really excited to see, because from the West Coast, I want to see a West Coast team in the Super Bowl this year. I actually, at the Super Bowl last year, did some interviews. I predicted the Raiders would actually represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And what happened down south in the great state of Florida, it was the Raiders coming to town with the 2 Pirates on both sides of the helmet for the Raiders, and also Tampa Bay. But a great game in overtime. It was 30-24. The Raiders prevailing down south, and Janikowski inexplicably missed 2 field goals that actually they were 50 and 52 yards, but you don't expect that. And Carr set a record passing. I mean, he lit it up for the Raiders. He had over 480 yards passing, Big C. Had a couple of drops, too. He could have thrown for over 500 yards because he was so good passing the ball, but they have him 513 yards. It was actually, he was 40 of 59, 513 yards. With no interceptions, Big C. Winston had 16 of 32, 180 yards. The Raiders really had to fix their defense. But your thoughts on Carr going down into the heat of Florida and pulling out that game, Big C? Well, you know, this is a win-lose situation for the Raiders. When you talked about Janikowski right off the bat. Yeah. You had that same scenario when he was at Florida State playing against Miami. Wide right, wide left. Yeah. To win football games, so maybe he has some flashbacks. So when you think about the Raiders having 23 penalties in this game, Charlton setting an NFL record for the amount of penalties in the game.
They actually had 24, but Tampa declined one of them. They declined one. They really had 24, Big C.
You think about the great numbers that Carr put up. You're not going to beat a quality team with that many penalties.
No, you're not.
20-plus penalties in a game.
Right.
You know, and you also got to look at Amari Cooper, the second-year receiver out of Alabama. Yeah. The guy cannot catch the football. I don't know if he can catch the Colton on a block out, but make it in a piece. You know.
But he had a great game. He had a great game.
But he's dropping wide open passes, Charlton. When you're paid in the NFL, you're number 1, draft pick, first-round draft pick, and you're dropping wide open passes that you could catch, you know. So, but, you know, this is the thing.
Yeah, that's funny.
You know, that defense of the Raiders is bad. Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's bad. You know, when you're getting into overtime, you look at what they've done the past couple weeks. Yes, they've won 5 games this year in a row, Charlton. Yeah. And that speaks marvels for their offense. But they got to find a way to play more intelligent in Oakland. Yeah. I mean, they play with a lot of stupid penalties that they took in the game, Charlton. Yeah. Michael Crabtree is having an all-pro season as receiver. But nobody on defense for the Raiders has stepped up and said, hey, I got this. Yeah, they're going to have to figure that out. Cooper did have a great game, but he did drop a lot of passes. 12 catches, 173 yards. That was his career high, but he could have been over 200 yards had he held on to a few more balls. And then you look at Crabtree, he was 8 for 108 yards. But the Raiders, if they're going to do it, they're going to have to do it on offense. The great thing about what's happening with Oakland right now is they can outscore a lot of the teams that they play against, Big C, outside of New England. Another game over across the pond, Big C, the Redskins 27,
tied with 27 against the Bengals in the pond. Vontaze Burfict, we talked so much about him, but he actually had 10 tackles across the pond. And then Dalton, talked about how great he played it with Cousins. That's a game that also had a field goal decide who won that game or lost, Big C. It was the Jets 31-28 over the Browns. The Browns are still winners, but the Jets had a lot of controversy going on in the great state of New York. But I want to get up to the Carolina Panthers, a 30-20 win over Arizona. That was last year's NFC Championship game. Cam Newton, I think he does get a hit too much. I think his complaints are valid. Your thoughts on Cam Newton and the Panthers, Big C?
Well, Cam Newton has been hit extraditionally. It started in the opening game, Charlton, against Denver, the Super Bowl rematch. And I think, there's a lot of people that don't like Cam Newton as a person.
Yeah.
Not as a player, but as a person. So it's taken out on the field when the officials say, well, we missed that call. Why the heck you got instant replay in the NFL and you're going to challenge everything? Why can't you challenge it? And when you see an obvious late hit on a quarterback, a high hit on a quarterback, and people will come back and say, well, he's so big.
Yeah.
Okay, that has nothing to do with the position.
Yeah.
Let that be Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Let that be Eli Manning taking that hit.
Or Aaron Rodgers,
Let that be any other Caucasian taking that hit other than Ben Roethlisberger because he and Cam are such big quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But that's not about the position. It's about protecting the position, keeping the game and its stars healthy.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, I remember years ago, and Cam Newton took a shot like Tom Brady did to his lower leg. If you go below the waist on a quarterback in the pocket, that's a medium fine and kicked out of the game.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
Yeah.
The officials are looking at this. Cam Newton is taking head shots in every game this year. But the thing about it, Charlton, in the last 2 years, this is no BS. In the last 2 years, Cam Newton has not got one roughing the quarterback call.
Really?
He's got some personal fouls, but he hasn't got one roughing the quarterback call. Now, you tell me, how can a quarterback go through 2 years in the NFL and not get a roughing the quarterback? He gets the personal foul late hits when he's outside the pocket.
Yeah.
But when he's in the pocket, he's been hit more than any quarterback in the NFL. 70 times this year, Charlton. 70.
Yeah, he's actually the MVP, the reigning MVP from last year. And when you think about that, when you look at the passing game, he was 14 of 27, 212 yards. And then Palmer, he was 35 of 46 with one interception. And he actually had 363 yards for the Cardinals. The Cardinals are having a tough go at it this year. But what helped them, Big C, also is the fact that another game that you call Seattle going into the great state of Louisiana, playing New Orleans down there in the South, Big C, and that was the Saints with Drew Brees won at 25-20. Seattle just doesn't look right offensively. I know they have some injuries there, but defensively is going to carry them this year. But a great win for the Saints down in the great state of New Orleans, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
If you're not playing strong defensively when you play New Orleans, expect to be having a long stride and short memory.
Yeah.
Drew Brees can throw the football. I don't care who the defense is, and we know that Seattle's had a great defense over the past several years, but Drew Brees, there hasn't been a better quarterback throwing the football in the last decade in the NFL than him. So when you go into New Orleans, expect to be in a shootout. And Drew Brees came out fine.
Yeah.
He was very accurate, and we saw the end result. Seattle's defense could just not keep up. Russell Wilson is not as healthy. We talked about that, the mobility that he lacks, and that's how they were able to get at him defensively. If he cannot run, that was a critical part of their offense during their Super Bowl years, running at the Super Bowl, is that Russell Wilson's mobility. Everybody talks about beast mode, but Russell Wilson was one of the top rushing quarterbacks in the NFL, Charles.
Big C, Seattle had 4 rushing first downs. 4. That's 1 a quarter. You can't win a game with 4 rushing first downs on the road. They had a tough game the week before down in Arizona. And you look at the passing, Brees was 27 of 35, 265 yards. And then Wilson still had a good game, 22 of 34. He did throw a pick. He had 253 yards. So that's always going to be tough when you can't run the ball. 4 rushing first downs won't do it. Another tough game, Big C, the Kansas City Chiefs in the final few minutes, 30-14 over the Colts. And we talk about Andrew Luck being highly overpaid. He's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, but they're not getting anything for their money on Andrew Luck. Alex Smith actually got knocked out in that game, and they gave him concussion protocol, but now they're saying he's cleared to pay. But Alex Smith not making nearly the money that Andrew Luck is making, but he outperformed him 30-14. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charles, the best-looking quarterback in that game was Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Nick Foles has become a journeyman in the NFL. We think about just 4 years ago when he set a record in Philadelphia as far as touchdown to interception ratio on the season when he fell there for Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's
Yeah.
But Nick Foles can play football. He came off the bench. He looked better than Alex Smith did. He played much better than Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
But, Andrew Luck, the media still says it's the team's fault.
Yeah.
It's just like with Aaron Rodgers. You got to start pointing the finger at these high-priced quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler. You got to point a finger at them. You gave Kirk Cousins $20 million this year.
Yeah.
And you're barely above 500.
Yeah.
So, at some point, you got to say the quarterback's not getting the job done. You can't keep blaming the receivers and offensive line. He's a pro. He's the highest paid pro on your team, but he's the least performer on your team. When you're looking at that, and I don't care who ranks who coming out of college.
Yeah.
When you look at the quarterbacks that are consistent winners in the NFL Charlton, they want the top-rated quarterbacks coming out of the college draft.
No.
But they're all winners, Charlton. That's what you got to look at. They're all winners.
Well, Big C, another game I want to ask you about, the game that was played last night, Sunday Night Football. I'm so impressed with Dak Prescott. I don't know what Jerry Jones is drinking, Big C. If someone doesn't see that this kid is the one that can lead the Dallas Cowboys back to the playoffs, then just get out of the business of coaching and out of the business of owning the team. Not only was this guy clutch, he made the big plays when it counted. He's elusive. He can get out of the pocket. He can stand in the pocket. He's about 6'3", 240 pounds. He's fast, makes good decisions. And even if he had a bad throw here and there, the guy is so clutch when they needed him. I don't know what they're saying about him not being the guy if Romo comes back. Clearly, he's a much better quarterback than Wentz, who kept getting sacked in that game, Big C. Your thoughts on Prescott, his performance last night for Dallas?
But Charlton, didn't we just speak about that? The top playing quarterbacks in the league weren't the top rated quarterbacks coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
And when you look at Dak Prescott, the talk in the media today is that, well, Tony Romo could have made this place because he got the same offensive coordinator. Well, Tony Romo's been there for years.
Yeah.
Over a decade in Dallas.
Yeah.
And they had the same offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Tony Romo, didn't make it through 3 of the last 5 games he played, so evidently he couldn't make those plays.
Yeah.
But Dak Prescott has the fortitude and fertility to keep doing it, Charlton. He's getting better every week. You think about it, Dallas has the longest winning streak in the NFL.
Yeah.
The longest winning streak in the NFL with 2 key rookies in the backfield, and running back and quarterback. But the talk is still of Tony Romo. Yes, it may be Tony Romo's team of the past, but it's not Tony Romo's team of the future.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones is in a quandary. He shot his mouth off continuously. He's the owner, so he can do and say whatever he wants to do. But he's also a damn fool if he doesn't want to win and all that money. That's as simple as it is.
Yeah.
Jerry, somebody slap him. Wake up.
Yeah, that's so funny, Big C.
This is your boy, Dak Prescott. This is your boy, just like Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
These guys are proven winners. They're not taking a time to develop. They came out of winning programs in college.
Yeah.
Big-time programs in the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They came out of programs that knew how to win. And so you bring them into the Cowboys organization, put them behind a great offensive line with some good receivers, and they continue to do that, Charlton. But the challenge from the media is that we want Romo.
Yeah.
We want Romo. Just back in San Francisco, we want Gabbert.
Yeah.
And both of those quarterbacks, what have they done in the last 2 years? Blaine Gabbert and Tony Romo.
They cashed all their paychecks, Big C. They've cashed every single paycheck they were given, Big C.
Combine the victories of Blaine Gabbert in the last 2 years and Tony Romo.
Yeah.
He did not equal Dak Prescott this season.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. That's very true. In the last game that we'll touch on in the last few minutes of the program, Big C, Brock Osweiler, $73 million, and really not worth it, even though they did get the win over Matthew Stafford. The Houston Texans 20 and the Lions 13. And when I look at someone like Osweiler, he came out of Arizona State, and they were trying to say this guy's the next great thing in Denver. But once Elway saw him play, he realized that he really wasn't going to get his money out of this guy. He was 20 of 29, 1 interception, only 186 yards. Stafford was 27 of 41 for 240 yards. So not a good game by either quarterback, but they're both $100 million quarterbacks, Big C. Your thought on that game, the Texans, a big win over the Lions 2013, Big C.
But when you look at the Texans season, Charlton, basically mirrored what they had last year with Brian Hoyer playing quarterback.
Yeah.
They won the division, they made it to the playoffs, but they couldn't get over that first round game. They were shut out by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And they're running the same. So this is a team that really hasn't improved. They changed quarterbacks, they paid a lot more money. They got the same consistency out of Brian Hoyer when he wasn't hurt last year. But Brock Osweiler, you got to get a little bit more out of it. Defense made some plays against Detroit's just been up and down. They remind me of an accordion.
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going in and going out. Making the same noise.
Or Donald Trump, you don't know if he's telling the truth or if he's lying because he does both at the same time, Big C. But Big C,
one is just like the other. He's inverted about what he said.
Yeah.
But you look at Houston. O'Brien was not happy with the victory. He knew that he had a lackluster performance that he escaped with from his team. And so he's trying to find a way to spark the team. They're in a dismal division.
Yeah.
The NFC. You got the Colts in that division, so they really don't have any challenge in the division. They'll win the division.
Yeah.
But it's not by replacing quarterbacks. They're just duplicating what they did last year. They got to win a playoff game, Charles.
Yeah, well, Big C, we know there's so much in the world of sports, and as we come to a close, I just want to say to everyone that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And when you follow Charlton and Big C Sports, the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C, and as good our boys down south with no hanging chads, we know that iHeart Media is the #1 media in the United States. We want to keep it real. We want to bring you real sports talk. But no matter what sport you like, we always want to say this: there's no excuse for domestic violence. Never, ever, ever should you put your hand on a woman. If you have anyone having any trouble, just call 911. Please keep our women safe, no matter what sport, no matter who's at fault. There's just no tolerance for domestic abuse, no matter who you are, athlete or mainstream worker. And when you want to hear real sports talk, tune into Charlton and Big C Sports, Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on the iHeart Radio Network. And as we always want to tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.